An earthquake suddenly struck Matthew in the bath. I feel something unusual. He hurried downstairs, seeing the faces of pedestrians in the street. I was frightened. The birds in the sky are also fleeing everywhere. The street was in chaos. A thick fog is rising from the ground. Those who inhale thick fog will die instantly. More poisonous fog poured in from all sides. Everyone is running for their lives. No one knows where the thick fog comes from. Matthew saw this and ran back quickly. The weird fog spreads at an amazing speed, sweeping through every street. Matthew ran home. A daughter who will suffer from defeat. Placed behind the dust-free airtight cabin. La looked at his wife and ran up. The thick fog soon spread up. They knocked on the top door. An old man opened the door for them. Looking out of the window at the thick fog approaching the top floor, my wife hurried to use the walkie-talkie. Confirm whether the daughter is safe. My daughter is suffering from chi exhaustion. Do not touch the air. Can only live in isolation. After learning that her daughter is in peace, they were relieved. They came out of the window. What they saw shocked them. The thick fog has flooded all the streets. There are helicopters flying overhead. Matthew climbed up the pipe to the roof. Look ahead. The whole city has been swallowed up by thick fog. A few survivors are also climbing to the roof. He came to the stairs. Touch the thick fog with your hands. No smell. The skin was not corroded. The earthquake cut off the electricity in the whole city. My daughter's battery in the quarantine can only last a few hours. I want to hold my breath and change the battery downstairs. It's too late. Matthew suddenly thought. The neighbor downstairs has an oxygen mask. He took a deep breath along the pipe. Slowly climbed down, break the glass and enter through the window. It was found that the old man had lost his life. Matthew was holding his breath. Start looking for the old man's oxygen mask. Just when he could hardly hold his breath, successfully found the oxygen tank. He took a few hard breaths. Matthew took the oxygen cylinder on his back and went home. Brought the food to her daughter. After replacing the battery, I told my daughter to use it sparingly. Matthew went to the street to check. There was a dead silence around. The ground is full of people who died by inhaling thick fog. He disassembled the battery of a car. Reserve. Suddenly, a whistle came from the distance. In the direction of the sound, he found a group of evacuees. The commander gave Matthew a professional oxygen mask. They don't know why. Only responsible for evacuation. Just as the commander was about to leave, Matthew asked him for an extra mask. He came home, brought back the materials needed for life. A sudden thick fog. In just a few minutes, it permeated the whole city. Matthew survived. He found it by marking. The smoke rises by 5 centimeters every hour. It won't be long before it will be flooded here. The next day, they went to the roof to check the situation. I found that people at high places had started to lose control. They must leave at once. But my daughter can't touch the air. They need to find protective clothing. However, it can only be found in the laboratory in the city center. To save my daughter, they decided to go to the laboratory to get protective clothing. I didn't go far out. I met a vicious dog. They turned around and ran away. The vicious dog was in hot pursuit, but the fog is too thick. They went in a wrong direction. Matthew slipped and fell into the water. The rapids made him unstable. The vicious dog still refuses to give up. Turn your head and chase your wife. She fled to the bus in a panic. The vicious dog also caught up. Fortunately, I was entangled by the rope. She quickly broke the window and fled. Back to the river. Shout hard. Matthew. No response was received. She can only move on. The road was full of people who had to go because of the thick fog. Even pigeons were not spared. Matthew was not drowned. He climbed ashore with all his strength. They meet again. Came to the laboratory. This place has been occupied. There were fallen workers everywhere. They found the protective clothing for their daughter. When I was about to leave, the laboratory exploded suddenly. The huge shock wave bounced them away. Matthew's clothes were also set on fire. My wife hurried to find a fire extinguisher, but her husband's oxygen pipe had been burned. 2 people can only share one oxygen mask. They take turns taking oxygen. Only then did they barely get to the top of the building. His wife saw that he was seriously injured. I took out the first aid kit and treated his wound. The disaster did not destroy them. Instead, let's love each other more. Matthew found that there was not much oxygen left. It's only enough to go back alone. To save my daughter, he can only let his wife go first. Otherwise, we'll all die. Although my wife is reluctant to part with me, but for my daughter, I must make this decision. She began to race against time, running all the way through the fog. When I got downstairs, we've run out of oxygen. She took off her oxygen mask. Hold your breath and carry the box upstairs. Finally, at the last moment, we reached a safe height, back to the top floor. It was found that the protective clothing was burned and destroyed. She was completely crushed. At this time, Ma Xiaoxiu walked carefully on the roof. Thick fog pervaded his feet. If you are not careful, you will die. Following the rope, he came to a roof. I saw a pile of supplies. There are still traces on the ground. A body was lying beside the car. This made him cautious. He followed the trail to the garage. I found a lot of food on the ground and a mask. Matthew walked on the roof with difficulty. All around was covered by thick fog. He put on a protective mask. When I was about to leave, the garage owner just came back. Obviously a policeman. He asked Matthew to take off his hood. Matthew quietly turned on the oxygen. He understood that he killed the people outside. The policeman suddenly drew his gun. Matthew pounced fiercely. 2 people fell onto the car. After a fierce fierce fight. Matthew strangled the police. He had to do it for his wife and daughter. The wife found that her daughter's clean cabin was running out of power. Dense fog began to seep into the clean cabin. She took a deep breath and rushed into the smoke. Hurry downstairs. Rush into the house. The power off clean room was restarted. My daughter cares about her. Why don't you wear a mask? She had to leave because of a strong sense of breathing. And this is their last sight. It wasn't long before Matthew came back. My daughter told him. Mother didn't wear a mask when she came to replace the battery. Matthew realized something was wrong. Sure enough, on the way up, I saw my wife lying on the stairs. Great sadness enveloped him. The wife who once stood by his side. Now he's fallen. He could not help tears in his eyes. The daughter kept asking. He could only tell her with difficulty that his mother had died. The daughter was in pain and remorse. The earthquake struck again. Matthew came to the window to observe. It is found that the rising speed of the toxic fog has become faster and faster. The thick fog has filled my feet. He must find protective clothing for his daughter as soon as possible, and then escape together. He made a final farewell to his daughter. Promise that you will come back. The thick fog has reached the top floor. The old man and the old lady held each other tightly. Calmly meet the end of your life. Matthew found an ambulance, opened the door, found protective clothing. To buy time, he found a motorcycle. Matthew sped out. Suddenly, a little boy burst out of the thick fog. He can't dodge, fell to the ground. Matthew struggled with his last thoughts. Limp back. Just when he can't hold on, two figures appeared in the thick fog. Walk in and have a look. It was his daughter and his sick friend. It turns out that this thick fog, it does no harm to people suffering from chi exhaustion. He took off his mask. Hold your breath. He hugged his daughter excitedly. When he wakes up again, already lying in the quarantine, my daughter's voice came from the intercom. Dad, I'll be right back. This is the end of the story. Sudden thick fog. It swept the whole city in just a few minutes. This may be nature's warning to mankind after human beings wantonly destroy the environment. This has led to some people suffering from chi exhaustion. Do not touch the air. However, when the thick fog comes, they were not hurt. Instead, healthy humans become caged birds. It also tells us importance of environmental protection.